Welcome to this special custom episode from FASTCO Works in partnership with Williams. I'm your host, Bill Weinpaul, producer at Fast Company. Joining me is Williams Executive Vice President of Corporate Strategic Development, Chad Zamarin. In this episode, we're going to talk about how critical it is for companies and workforces to evolve and innovate in a time of rapid change, and how our energy needs are being impacted by the growing use of AI and new media. Chad, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Well, tell me a little bit about Williams.
Yeah, so Williams is one of the largest energy infrastructure companies in the United States. We've been in business for over 100 years. We build and operate some of the nation's most critical energy infrastructure. Today, we move about a third of the nation's natural gas. This is the gas that we use to heat our homes. We use to power the appliances that cook our food. And increasingly, we deliver natural gas to power generation facilities to truly power the economy here in the United States. So we've got critical energy infrastructure that spans across the entire United States, from the Gulf Coast to the Northeast, delivering gas into New York City, and also through the Rockies and into the Pacific Northwest and the West Coast. We're also working on the next generation of energy. And so a company that's been in business for over 100 years has innovated and evolved many times through the history of our company. And so not only are we delivering the critical energy that we need and use here today as a country, but we're developing the energy solutions of the future. So we've got several different efforts to bring next generation energy technologies, decarbonization solutions to the market so that we can continue to grow our economy, both here at home and around the world, lift people out of poverty, but also increasingly focus on doing that in a sustainable way for future generations.
How important is innovation in the energy sector?
Yeah, innovation is critical. You think about a company like ours, over a 100-year-old company. We weren't doing in 1925 what we're doing here in 2025. We've had to evolve many times throughout our history as a company, and we've had to do that as a country. You think about the history of Williams. Give you a quick, cool story. This is a company that's built much of the critical infrastructure for different eras of energy in our country. In the middle of the 20th century, when we had a global war going on, German U-boats were actually sinking oil tankers in the Gulf Coast of America that we were using to ship oil up into the northeast part of the U.S. in order to fuel our war effort to support our allies in Europe. Because those ships were being sunk, Williams built critical energy infrastructure. We call it the War Emergency Pipeline, so that we could move energy underground from the Gulf Coast all the way up to New York. We built that in under a year so that we could deliver fuel to help our friends and allies around the world. So the company has had to solve challenges throughout the history and has really been an innovator. And now we think about what the world needs next. We have an increasing need for energy here at home, also around the world. There are still billions of people that live in energy poverty. So how are we going to deliver energy to those that need it most, but importantly, do it in a way that is sustainable and reducing emissions for future generations?
Is the science exciting to you, like seeing how the science also evolves with the demand?
Yeah, it's super cool. It's become, I'm not sure my kids would call me cool yet, but you think about a company like ours, energy infrastructure company. Traditionally, we're investing in satellite technology. We've launched satellites into outer space that are going to monitor and improve how we operate energy infrastructure. We're investing in artificial intelligence, digital solutions that monitor the way that we move energy around the United States and around the world, so that we can do that in increasingly more creative and efficient ways. The technology is moving at such a rapid pace. We're fueling a lot of what we need to grow those needs. When you think about energy truly is the link between evolving communities out of poverty and to advanced quality of life. The idea of turning on a light bulb in a community that doesn't have light during the nighttime hours, and what that can mean for a child that can then read a book. But then imagine taking energy in this AI revolution to the next level, when a doctor in a small community in Africa can actually get access to the information that we have here in the Western world, by just talking and AI listening to a doctor and actually diagnosing things at a level that you can't do without access to energy, which allows you to bring technology to people that can benefit from it.
This is extremely interesting. So what are you seeing now in today's society as far as the energy sector is concerned?
Yeah, so we've got a huge opportunity, but also a big challenge here. You hear a lot about artificial intelligence, you hear a lot about this rapid evolution of technology. None of that is possible without the energy that we need to power it. And increasingly, these technologies are big sources of use for energy. We really can't achieve the full potential that we believe we can achieve with artificial intelligence and digital transformation without having the energy that's required. And the challenge that we have here in the United States, frankly, around the world, is it's gotten hard to build infrastructure. We have tapped out the capacity that we have within our energy infrastructure and ecosystem. I think of it like the highway system. We've been adding cars to the roads without expanding the roads. You're going to get congestion. You're going to have reliability problems. We're seeing the same thing happen when we want to add more capacity, but we've filled up all of the existing systems that we have. And so that's one of the real challenges that we're going to be taking on as a company. And frankly, we need to take on as a country. We've got to get back to making it easier to build the infrastructure that will power our economy for this next generation of technology.
What would you say to people who want to know what Williams is about and what you're striving to achieve?
Yeah, we talk about making clean energy happen. That's what we are focused on as a company. We've been focused for generations on solving big energy challenges. We're a big country, and frankly, the globe uses and needs a lot of energy. And so we've got to do big scale solutions. And so when I think about what Williams means for our employees, for the communities in which we operate, our mission is truly to solve the world's energy problems. And the problems that we have today, it's really a twofold problem. How do we increase the delivery of energy, but how do we do that in a way that is sustainable? It is truly one of the greatest challenges and opportunities of our generation. The world has a huge appetite for energy. We need to lift people out of poverty. You think about it, billions of people still living in energy poverty, millions of people dying each year because of household pollution because they cook their food with wood, coal, or animal manure. We take for granted here in the United States the energy that we have, the infrastructure that we have, but we have to increasingly engineer the solutions for this next generation of energy need here at home, but also for the world and what it needs to grow and lift people out of poverty.
Sustainability is definitely a key word in that equation. What do you need to do to reach that goal?
So one of the challenges we have from a global perspective is economies tend to build their way out of poverty by the use of burning very high emissions fuels, in particular coal. And so if we want to solve the sustainability challenge for the world, we've got to make sure we're delivering a better solution than just to burning coal. And here in the United States, we've proven that natural gas has been the most powerful decarbonization tool. Over the last 10 years, over 60% of the emissions reductions that we've had here in the United States, and the United States has led the world in global emissions reductions. Over 60% of the emissions reductions we've achieved here in the United States have been by increasing the use of natural gas and displacing coal, which is a high emissions energy source. And so we've got to continue to drive coal out of the global energy mix and replace it with solutions like natural gas. And then beyond that, we've got to leverage the infrastructure that we have to find those next generation technologies. You think about electric vehicles. We're not going to tear out the highways and the roads to replace them so that we can use electric vehicles. Sometimes you might think that we're going to need to change the entire energy system to create an energy system of the future. Frankly, the world can't afford to do that. We've got to figure out how to decarbonize existing energy solutions and systems because the scale is so large. We've never really been in an energy transition. We've been in an energy addition as a world, and we continue to see that. This year, India is the largest population on the planet from a country perspective. It's been centuries since China hasn't been the largest population on the planet. India is just getting started. Today, a person in India uses about 1/15 the amount of energy as a person in the United States. That's not because they're more efficient. They don't yet have access to clean, reliable, affordable energy, and they're going to look to whatever they can find to lift their communities out of poverty. We've got to provide them with a solution that is more sustainable than just cutting down a tree or digging, coal out of the ground and lighting a fire. And so that's what we're focused on with natural gas here and now, and then the development of the next generation technologies.
What is the reach with Williams? How far does Williams reach in the global environment as far as energy is concerned?
Today at Williams, we touch literally millions of homes and businesses here in the United States. We move over a third of the nation's natural gas, but increasingly, we are delivering natural gas to LNG terminals along the Gulf Coast and shipping LNG around the world. The United States has just in the last 5 years grown from virtually having no LNG exports to becoming the world's largest exporter of natural gas. And it's a really important strategic benefit that we have as a country. You think about the war that we've had to witness happening between Russia and Ukraine. When Russia invaded Ukraine, they tried to hold the entire European continent hostage with energy. They turned off the supply of natural gas that they were delivering into Europe. The United States was able to more than double LNG imports into Europe during that conflict. Imagine what the world would have looked like had we not been able to deliver energy to our friends and allies that needed it when they were being held truly hostage in Europe. And so that's a critical part of our business. And US LNG finds its way to Asia, to Europe. Important that it provides energy to those that need it, and increasingly is being used to displace very high emissions fuels like coal in places around the world. So truly, the United States has, and what we do at Williams has a global reach. We can produce gas in Wyoming. We can move it over vast distances without losing that energy. We can store vast quantities of it. We can ship it to businesses and homes here in the United States and to those that need it around the world. And we can deliver it when and where it's needed. It truly is an incredible energy value chain that we've built here in the United States.
From a technology perspective, how is technology driving the demand for energy in today's society?
Technology has emerged as one of the most incredible demand drivers for energy utilization. Here in the United States, the electricity that we use to power our homes and businesses has increasingly been called upon now to power electric vehicles. And now with the revolution of AI models use multiples of the amount of energy that we use when we just do traditional computing. And we're still at the early stages of development of this technology. And so truly the relationship between energy and technology is more important than ever. And we are not going to be able to scale to our full technology potential without the energy scaling along with it. That's why we're so focused on making sure that the infrastructure that we have in the United States positions us to win the technology race. Other places in the world where they're buying turbines, they are increasing coal utilization to power their ambitions around AI and technology development. This is a race that we don't want to lose. So we've got to make sure that we can efficiently expand our energy infrastructure here in the United States. And that's become more challenging. It's become a lot harder to build. This is a country that built the Hoover Dam, built the interstate highway system. We've got to get back to being able to build projects. Today it can take us 3 or 4 years to permit a project that we can build in 6 to 12 months. That's not okay. We've got to figure out as a country how to get back to building if we really want to achieve the full potential that we should as a country. And so it's super critical to make sure that we can match energy growth along with the technology development that's occurring.
That brings me to my next question, which is, what does the future look like for Williams?
Yeah, the future is really exciting. I tell students and young employees, if you really want to work on some of the world's most, challenging but also rewarding opportunities, come to work at a place like Williams. We are truly focused on creating solutions for the future, on being a part of solving the world's greatest energy challenges, which end up becoming solving issues like raising people out of poverty, creating the capacity for us to evolve our technology, our mobility infrastructure. How do we continue to achieve the full potential as a country? Frankly, as a world, we've got to develop next generation energy solutions. And I think about a company like Williams, been around for over 100 years, doing it the right way. Our goal is to make sure that for the next 100 years, we're building energy solutions that unlock potential, that are affordable, that are reliable, that are clean. We're doing that for generations to come. And so it's a really exciting time to see how much potential we have as a country, frankly, how much potential there is to unlock people and technology around the world. To be a company like Williams, to be right in the center of solving that and unlocking that full potential, that's what's really exciting about the next generation of opportunity for Williams.
What would you attribute that 100-year plus success to, you think, for Williams as a company?
Yeah, we've got a great culture. Williams was started by two brothers in a small town in Arkansas early on in the history of the company, moved to Tulsa, Oklahoma. It's only been in the last, couple of decades that we haven't had a Williams family member leading the company, but we've preserved what we love about that rich history of the company. But we've also always had an eye towards how do we innovate for the future. And you think about a company that's been around for 120 years, still right in the middle of being one of the country's most critical energy infrastructure and solutions providers. You don't get there by just doing the same thing over and over again. That rich history of being a good partner with communities in which we operate, holding on to that history of being a family-founded company, but being able to evolve continuously and innovate over the years, that's a rich part of our culture. We care about our employees, we care about the communities that we work in, but we also want to be very aggressive in innovating and looking towards the future, making sure that not only are we delivering the here and now, but because of a company that we care about and has survived through many evolutionary periods, we want to make sure we're positioned to do that on a go-forward basis. And I think that's an important culture that we bring as a company that's been a part of the American story of how we've grown our economy to where it is today, how we've achieved what we have. We're going to make sure that this is a company that's going to be a part of helping us achieve that for many, many generations to come. The culture of our company makes it really exciting.
Would you say that's a unique property of Williams, or are there other things that kind of lend to their status in the marketplace?
Yeah, I think it is a unique property. I mean, there are not many companies in the energy infrastructure space that have been able to innovate and survive for over 115 years. We've done it, and not always easy. When big energy systems change and evolve, like we're seeing today, when technology emerges as rapidly as we're seeing it evolve, companies that have been around for over 100 years, we don't often think of those as the most innovative companies that can adapt to those changing times. So I do think it's unique that we bring that culture and focus on not being a company that gets settled in the way that we've always done things, but is ready to not just follow what's happening, but lead in what's happening. When you think about our country in general, we've got a lot of these large, old institutions. We've got to continue to focus on figuring out how to drive innovation, not just with the new companies that are emerging, but we've got to leverage the large base of experience and infrastructure that we have as a country. And we've got to make sure we're lighting a fire to bring all of the innovation across the entire space. And I do think Williams is especially good at that. And our employees have really brought that forward.
Like, how crucial is it for companies and workforces to evolve and innovate in today's world?
Yeah, it's critical. You think about one of my greatest fears is making sure that our employees are not afraid to come to work in a space like ours. Traditional energy infrastructure companies might not be thought of as the coolest place to go and work. And so we've got to make sure that we're a place that is relevant, that we are companies that are part of the solution. And so incredibly important, for a company like Williams.
It is amazing how much energy consumption there is in the world. And it must just be growing by leaps and bounds every year or every second.
Absolutely. I mean, we are seeing, and here in the United States, we're actually entering, because of technology development, we're actually entering a phase where we're going to grow the energy use in the United States over the next decade significantly faster than we have over the last 10 years. And so we've got to make sure that as a country, we're ready to do that. But then you think about the rest of the world, there is an incredible appetite for energy to grow economies, lift people out of poverty. That's going to continue to be something that the U.S. should lead on. We produce some of the lowest cost energy around the world. We're seeing manufacturing and industrial revitalization happen here in the United States. It's not just because we make things better. It's actually because we've got lower cost, more reliable, and frankly, the cleanest energy produced on the planet. We should be building and engineering the solutions for the globe here in the United States, where we have the cleanest, most abundant, most reliable, most affordable energy available.
Chad, thank you very much for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
This custom episode is produced by FASTCO Works in partnership with Williams. I'm Bill Weinpaul, our producer is Avery Miles, and our editor is Nicholas Torres.